All right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm here once again with my buddy through the miracle of computer phone, here with Dave Dufour. Dave, good morning. Happy day after NCAA National Championship game / solar eclipse day across the heartland. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I didn't watch either one of those things. So,
well, I don't think you had an option for one of them. I mean, you did.
Oh, the eclipse? Yeah, I don't know if it was visible
I don't think
here.
the eclipse hit California. I think you guys are too liberal for it. No, I believe your old place in Texas, you would have had 100% blackout, right?
Oh, yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I mean, that would have that would have suited the location.
I'm going to speak broadly now to the problems of the modern era when you're looking at photos. One, they're all manipulated.
How about I just don't care?
Well, even the ones that aren't manipulated, you're like, I'm just guessing that's not manipulated. Like the Dallas Mavericks released a photo of the eclipse over downtown Dallas, and they did it from like underneath the Dirk statue. So like it's the Dirk statue, and then there's some like high rise, and then behind that it's like a total solar eclipse. But then also in the sky is a Mavs logo. And I know that's just the watermark of like, this is the Mavs did this, but also it's like, well, I know one thing.
What else did you do?
Yeah, I know one thing real. The other thing is not real. So I don't know. I mean, it was good. The problem was in Tennessee, it's all cloud cover, but it actually was kind of good where you could see the eclipse as long as you weren't wearing your eclipse glasses.
Right.
So like if you wore the eclipse glasses, pitch black. And we were like telling our kids in the morning, like, hey, a lot of kids are going to want to take your eclipse glasses off. Don't look at the sun, okay? Like just leave the glasses on. But then I'm sitting there, not with my kids at this other place I'm working, looking at the eclipse. And I'm like, well, you can't see it with the eclipse glasses on. So, we enjoyed it.
Yeah. When I was a kid, it was like a big science day.
Yeah.
When we had an eclipse, like I remember like going outside and we made the eclipse glasses that morning or whatever, like the little view box.
The view box. That's what our childhoods. We didn't have these like welder's glasses we could all get from Amazon. Yeah, you had to drill.
Back in our day, Keith, we had
to look at the reflection of the eclipse in a cardboard box.
Yeah. But it was interactive. I don't know. And I kind of just feel this way about everything now. It's nothing is a big deal if everything is, and stuff like this is just like, I don't know.
It was kind of a big deal.
I guess. I don't know. Not really. I mean, when
sun
you know
got
the science
out, Dave.
Yes, but when you know the science behind it, is it really that big of a deal?
We're the only place in the universe where our moon is 400 times the length of the moon to the sun. It's like the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, and just is the perfect distance where it blacks out. I don't know.
Well, if someone had made that,
Malachi Flynn had a 50-point game. They're both amazing.
Now that is an eclipse.
They're both rare and amazing. You won't see that again until 2045. How are we supposed to process these things as humans?
How am I supposed to feel about Malachi Flynn scoring 50 for the first time in his life?
Yeah.
In the NBA.
Yeah.
Off the bench.
Yeah.
How's that supposed to make you feel?
He's the third. I think is this right? He was the third bench player to go for 50.
Yeah.
There's more Malachi Flynn talk coming in the awards segment of the program. So we can table that for now. We can table eclipse talk. We can table college basketball talk. I watched bits of both the men's and women's championship game for the first time in forever. I was entertained. Also, I think this had to be the most chalk tournaments ever because I predicted both winners correctly, and I don't know anything. I just filled it out with like, that's the best team, and everybody won, so I guess everyone's happy. I don't know.
Best overall team won both. I mean, the women's game, I'll say this. I saw that the ratings were through the roof. I don't know how. I had no idea. Listen, the game was on so early in the day.
It's perfect.
I didn't realize it. I guess. I don't know, man. When it's nice outside, I mean, it's spring. Yeah. I'm not sitting around the house at noon.
I mean, it makes you wonder so this is like the question, would the ratings have been bigger if they played it at 9 p.m. like the men's game?
I think that's insane. Whatever they're doing with the men's game where it starts at 9 Eastern is ridiculous. That's silly. What I don't get is how come you can't time this out so you just do a doubleheader on Sunday?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll
do a game-to-game doubleheader on the Sunday so that you get more eyeballs.
I don't know if that matters. You can't. How many more eyeballs can you get than whatever 15 million watch South Carolina and Iowa? That's incredible.
Now, South Carolina and Iowa on ABC and ESPN with a simulcast.
Yeah.
That's easy, man. You're running into eyeballs, especially on a Sunday. You're not dealing with anything. The NBA is kind of like, well, actually, the NBA has been pretty good right now, but in the zeitgeist, no one cares about the NBA today. Not until next week. And you have this great opportunity, right? So why put it on at noon? Now with the men, Keith, this thing was on TBS.
TNT. There might have been
TNT. There you go. I didn't even know.
Was it a Impractical Jokers simulcast on TBS?
I have no idea, man. But that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not going to put my conspiracy hat on, but feels like they're tanking the men's game there. That's impossible, man. I don't understand what they're doing. It doesn't matter to me, but
ESPN has carried men's games. ESPN has carried NBA games. ABC carries the finals. More people watch that women's college game than watch any of the finals games. I mean, it was a cultural event, and it was very entertaining, and it was a dominant. I mean, rare things that had occurred. You had an undefeated national champion with Dawn Staley in that USC program, taking out Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and then you have back-to-back champions in college basketball. That, of course, is extremely rare. Also very rare is Dave Dufour eating breakfast. Have you had is that a good segue? Have you had any breakfast, Dave? Or should I throw you on my back and carry you?
You're going to have to carry me through the breakfast segment. One set of
footsteps. I had a weird breakfast. Maybe it's not a weird breakfast. I had some leftover salmon. We had some good salmon for dinner last night, just some salmon, some broccoli, some baked potato, but we had a little leftover. The kids didn't eat that much of it. So I just had some, chilled.
Just salmon.
Salmon's fine. I had some coffee. I mean, I didn't eat it all together. Salmon, coffee together kind of makes you retch when you think about it. But let's say 7 a.m. coffee, 9 a.m. I just had some salmon by itself. So yeah, it's enough to break the fast, get me the energy I need to record a podcast. That's all.
After this, I'm gonna make some eggs and some turkey sausage, a little avocado, throw some kimchi in there. That'll be my breakfast. Yeah, that will be my breakfast. Yeah.
After our breakfasts, we move to our breakfast in bed apologies. This is basically my chance to make right what I got wrong on a previous episode. It's frequently the first time we talk about the NBA, which the show's supposed to be about. I once again made a mathematical error in an episode. Last week, I was talking about what I think might be the most remarkable score of any NBA game ever. I was talking about the Portland Trailblazers' penchant for being the only team in history to have multiple 60-point losses to their name. And there was this game in the 90s, they lost to the Pacers 124-59, which is just a staggering score. I said that's a double up plus 16. That math does not check out. 59 plus 59 is 118. And then it takes 6 more points to get to 124. So it's a double up plus 6. I am sorry for messing up basic arithmetic on the show for the second time. 2 weeks in a row. So,
well, you're just getting back into the swing of it.
I'm getting back into the swing of things. The one thing I was the best at school, arithmetic / simple math. Multiplying any numbers times any numbers, great at it. Square roots with no calculator, incredible at it.
When I've never had somebody say that to me.
When it started being like trig geometry, I mean, I was the human calculator with any stats, like whatever. Now I can't. I'm just making basic errors everywhere. Trig, calc, wasn't that good at it. But
you gotta get that TI-83.
Yeah, I had to pull out the calculators and or start cheating. Anyways, Dave, those were our apologies, and I want to get into the main course of this episode, which is, I think, focusing on how the standings have shifted essentially over the past, I don't know, month, 2 months. Basically, Dave, is my perception correct that the East is in shambles and all of a sudden all the West teams are pretty good? Like, I was looking at the standings, Dave, back at like February 1st, like we were making fun of the Lakers for being a 500 team. We were making fun of the Suns for not being that much better. You had the Warriors. They were at some point this year, they were like 5 games under 500, and like the Mavericks weren't that good. Meanwhile, in the East, we're like, hey, like right before the Embiid injury, at least, we're still thinking like, hey, the Sixers, man, like they're good, and the Cavs and the Knicks, and like you had all these teams and like the Bucks, and they're all like, they're a step below the Celtics, but still they're good. The East is legit. The West, what's going on? And now it's kind of reversed where it's like, all right, the Celtics are good. And then how deep do we go in the West before we hit an Eastern Conference team? So what's your thought on the shakeup? Is it all meaningless because it's just the NBA regular season? Or is this an actual thing where, hey, guess what? The Lakers, maybe they're better than the Cavs now. Like they've caught them in the standings, and all these teams that were at once, like we're like, are they gonna make the play in? Now it's like, if they were in the East, they'd be the 3 seed and I'd pick them to go to the conference finals. So what are your thoughts on kind of what's happened league wide with these teams?
I think the one thing is the West is like a true playoff race and has been for a while. Also, the West has just got more talent. It's better, right? You look at the last 10 games for a bunch of teams, which I one of my favorite things to just at a glance look at, right? Like, last 10. And you would think from the zeitgeist, just the way that we talk about these teams, that they would be awful right now. The Warriors 7-3 in their last 10. The Lakers 8-2 in their last 10. The Mavs 9-1. Suns 7-3. Clippers 7-3. Nuggets 7-3. Wolves 7-3. Notice a trend here. These guys are winning games. They're getting into their playoff rotations because the playoffs already started for them, Keith. So when you go and look at the East, number one, I think you've just got worse injury luck happening there. I mean, the Knicks have been beat up. Whatever's going on with Chris Middleton, whatever's going on with the Bucks, they just suck right now.
So,
Orlando.
Can we have a footnote on the Bucks? So like the Bucks, I mean, an incredible week of they lost 4 straight and somehow clinched to playoff spot. Right. Because everyone else is terrible and just everyone else is losing out. I don't think the Nets were eliminated until like 3 days ago, which I'm still not sure how that works. But the Bucks, what they lost, Wizards, Grizzlies, Raptors, which is just unreal. The Raptors brought a 15-game losing streak into that game, and then so the Bucks falling apart. The Bucks, since January 1st, which is a long time, this is several months, they're 500. They're 23-23 since January 1st. But all right, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
They're not good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the Bucks' big problem right now is that they're not good. Giannis is good. Brook Lopez has been good this season. But that's about it.
So I don't know what to make of Brook Lopez. He still gets the block numbers and he still has these incredible offensive performances, but like I see him get roasted. And maybe I'm too focused on like the game I watched the closest in the last week, which was like Jaren Jackson Jr. scoring 40 on him and Gigi Jackson dunking all over Brook Lopez constantly. And I'm like, oh, why? They're just attacking Brook Lopez over and over and over. And like,
it's not attacking Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
I mean, the guards on that team are pretty.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who you'd send to help.
They don't have anybody.
Why isn't Giannis guarding Jaren? I don't know. But Brook Lopez was guarding Jaren one-on-one the whole time. And Jaren's like, thank you. I will drive to the basket for another layup.
Yeah. It's not a good season for them, but the West is just better.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. More talent. I mean, I don't want to be the guy who starts arguing at this time of year for, position or conferenceless seating in the playoffs. Cause I don't care about that. But man, when you look and you're just like, oh, wow, the Warriors are 45-34. They would be battling potentially for a 2 seed in the East.
Yeah. Well, if we had a conferenceless playoff race, of course, the Rockets would be in favor of that. Right. As they watch the Hawks and Bulls head into the postseason. That's lowercase postseason in italics and with parentheses. I don't know. How do we define the play? And we still haven't figured that out. Congrats,
not the playoffs.
Congrats to the Warriors, by the way, and their PR team who sent out a release/photo. Congratulations for clinching postseason by finishing in the top 10. Top 10 clinched. Was this his rage bait, by the way? We know the entire thing, the entire social media strategy of everyone now is to get clicks. And so you're like, hey, we're going to do this so we get quote tweeted into oblivion. And that's just going to give us the impressions that we can show the advertisers and say, hey, look, this post got 20 million views or whatever.
100%. 100%. Everything is a scam. Everything is a scam. All of it.
I can't get over how the Suns, who I was basically walking around with my chest puffed out. That's not so hard to say. Chest puffed out. About how like they're not that good. I was like, listen, they don't have the connective pieces and like they're all in for this like maybe best case scenario being a top 5 to 8 team. And then like their season was going even worse than I anticipated. But all of a sudden it's like, I mean, they have a good record, you know, like they're 46-32, which like you said, much like these other teams that would put them basically in the fight for the 2 seed in the East. Do you think the East is going to get their act together? You said the Bucks you think maybe aren't any good. I mean, the Sixers, Joel Embiid came back last week. D'Anthony Melton is questionable for tonight. Is there like, can they at least get their act in order where it's like, all right, maybe the Sixers could be kind of good? Which of these teams outside of the Celtics are better than the Suns or are better than the Lakers?
You know, I think the Knicks are pretty good. The Knicks, though, they've just got to get everybody healthy. And I mean, Julius Randle's not coming back, but Mitch Robinson's not 100% yet. I think that the Knicks they're the most likely to push Boston if they face each other in a series, in my opinion. We might be sleeping on Orlando a little bit. Now, they can't score, but their defense is excellent. So, I mean, maybe they could surprise us. But I think this is like Boston could go 12-0.
I mean, Boston's up by 15 games right now.
Yeah, they are the class of the Eastern Conference, and rightfully so. They're a much better team. And the other teams kind of suck. They're just not good. I mean, is there a single team that you could say, oh, I could see them going on a run? Whereas when you go to the West, it's like, oh, well, Minnesota, they could go on a run. Denver, of course, won last year. Oklahoma City, well, unlikely. But you can see things breaking their way. They've been shooting the hell out of the ball all year. The Clippers, I think a couple months ago, everyone decided that Kawhi Leonard is back and could be the best player on a championship team again. The Mavericks are built for the playoffs. Phoenix, I mean, when you've got KD and Devin Booker, who both I think are going to make all NBA, with their shot making, if they can defend at all, that's a team that could make some noise in the playoffs. I mean, the West is open to me, even though I think Denver is the favorite to win the title. So I think that the West is it's going to be a harder road.
When you look at the West, you have 10 teams that I think would reasonably, if they were put in the Eastern Conference, compete to make the conference finals. You wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Warriors, who are the 10 seed in the West,
right,
like made it, like could they beat whoever? Could they beat the Knicks or the Magic? It's like, I think I would pick them to beat the Knicks. Maybe not the Knicks, but like, I don't know. The Cavs are the huge question because the Cavs have been so bad recently. And when I say recently, I mean over an extended period. And this is just like the Cavs and the Clippers had these 30-game spans where they murdered everyone. And now it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of falling apart. But when I look at the West, 1 through 10, here's one of my fears. And I don't know if this is just from my small market heart that I'm bothered by this. But my fear is, like you said,
love that song.
These teams are built for the postseason. Like, yes, the Mavericks look awesome right now. They had an unbelievable comeback victory over the Rockets, maybe a more crushing defeat than amazing comeback. The Rockets basically ended their faint hopes by blowing a big lead. Jabari Smith missed a couple of free throws. Dante Exum drills this clutch three-pointer. But like the Mavericks are awesome now. Also, like the Suns, you think, okay, they're coming on, and they are actually built for the postseason. And meanwhile, the Lakers, when the Lakers are healthy, they've been good for a month now. my small market fear is, have we just totally rendered this regular season meaningless? Like last year in the West, your 2 seed and your 3 seed were the Grizzlies and the Kings, and no one believed in them, and everyone was right. It ended up being the big name guys from the Lakers and the Warriors moving on in the postseason. And this year, I worry, the Timberwolves and the Thunder and maybe like the Pelicans. I mean, the Pelicans have slid all the way down to 7th, but like they could easily, over the final 4 games of the season,
That's
they might
tough,
end up.
Man.
But yeah,
you lose 2 games and you, all of a sudden you're like the 9 seed. And now they've been scuffling a little bit because they went on a run too. I mean, this is the thing about the West is some of this is timing your run. Like can you finish out the season strong? I mean, you're looking now, everybody's got about 4 games left. So I think so.
Yeah.
About 4 games left. And when you look at down the standings at how much can change, every single seed is up for grabs in the West.
So, but going back to my small market fears are that these teams that have been at the top the whole time, like they're at risk to lose in the first round to some of these big name guys, to lose to the Suns or to lose to the Warriors or to lose to the Lakers. And like, I don't know.
Be honest. Be honest with me, Keith.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the Lakers come out of the play-in again and make a conference finals run.
Part of me feels that way as a Lakers hater. However, I thought the Lakers would be good this year.
Same.
And then like through the first 50 games, I was like, well, I was wrong. This team stinks. And like now they're good. And you're like, oh, they're finally 11 games over 500 and they're playing pretty well. And you're like, well, this is kind of what I thought was going to happen. So that part of me as a human podcaster who likes being right, that's fighting my years of cheering against the Lakers. I mean, honestly, I've said it many times. If this Lakers team, if you just took this whole roster and put them in Seattle and they were the Supersonics, I'd like this team a lot. They have a lot of, I'm not a D'Angelo Russell fan, but like basically everybody else.
He's fun though.
He's been amazing. He's been awesome this year. And, but basically like I like LeBron James. I cheer for LeBron James. And like, I like this Lakers roster and like the way Rui's been lighting it up for this team. No. So it's all just the jersey. I'm just a hater based on the jersey, but like, I do feel
like that. Though,
I do have sympathy for the teams that you felt like broke through this year, like the Timberwolves and the Thunder, where this 8 months of work, it all gets spoiled if you lose in the first round. Like if you lose in the first round, it kind of undoes a lot of the really positive feelings and momentum you have going forward. Like if the Timberwolves lose in the first round, that team, I think, is going to be massively different next year because of their salary concerns. And like maybe the Thunder, they're probably less stressed about it. They're going to be sad, but they're going to like wipe their tears away with all their first round picks. They're going to, they're going to be cool.
Well, no, the Thunder, the expectations internally, I think, are, hey, we're happy to be here. And legitimately, right? Like they had a great year. If they get out of the first round, that's an overwhelming success. If they don't, and it's because they were too small and got out rebounded or whatever, I think that's kind of what they would expect. And I think that they would even, maybe they won't admit it out loud, but no one should expect the Oklahoma City Thunder to even make the conference finals, in my opinion, because playoff basketball is so different. And I do think that they've got a big weakness, especially in the West, because you're going to have to contend with some serious rim protection, whether it's Minnesota or Denver or, Dallas even. Like that's the size is going to be tough. So I don't think it's the same if Oklahoma City flames out in the first round versus, like you said, the Timberwolves. If the Timberwolves lose in the first round, obviously the context is going to matter. I think that team's going to look different anyway because the money is getting to be astronomical. But if they lose in the first round, is it an indictment on Rudy again? Is it an indictment on Karl Anthony Towns? Like someone is going to catch the blame. Whereas I think the Thunder can get through a first round loss relatively, unscathed or at least uncriticized to a certain degree. The criticisms are pretty apparent. Like we know where their weaknesses are. Minnesota, it's very, will this ever work? I think. And we're seeing the regular season that we expected last year, or at least some of us did. I thought that they could have a top 5 defense right away. But I will go back and admit that in hindsight, Rudy must have been not healthy last year. He looks completely different and has all year. So willing to chalk that year up as just an injury year. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And again, the other teams, I think there are a couple teams that can lose. Dallas, they can lose in the first round as long as they're competitive. And I think that relatively unchanged over the summer. They're going to tweak on the margins, but they found something there.
I do feel like
Clippers lose in the first round. What happens there?
Paul George signs with the Sixers. Is that what we're thinking? I mean, is Paul George really going to move? I feel like he's a Southern Cal guy. That's
weather
like
is amazing, man.
It's great. I was thinking about the Timberwolves while you were talking. Like, we focus so much on the Timberwolves issues with their luxury tax problems going forward, and like the Gobert deals a lot, and of course the Karl Anthony Towns deal is absolutely massive. But like, I look at this team now and like I follow them pretty closely because they have Kyle Anderson, they have Mike Conley, two of my favorites, and like Naz Reid's been absolutely amazing. And so you have to think like, we have Naz, like, all right, could we move Cat? What could we move Cat for? Just because he's going to make $60 million a year going forward. Right. The problem is like, how are you going to move that deal? But there's another deal, which honestly I feel like that they probably really regret, and that's like the Jaden McDaniels deal. Like Jaden McDaniels, who, as a hipster podcaster, I'm contractually obligated to adore. And when he signed the deal, I was kind of like, I mean, you just got to pay to keep your guys. What are you going to do? Not pay Jaden McDaniels? But now you're looking at the extreme salary concerns this team has. And it's like, this guy he's got a 5-year, $136 million extension. Like, could you move that deal if you had to? And I don't think so. Like, it would have to be a team like the Magic. And even then they can't have more guys like Jaden McDaniels. They need, they need scores, but like, it'd have to be a team that has massive salary cap space, and those teams don't really exist. So like, that's a weird one where it's like, I feel like if they could undo that one, they might. And that pains me, because I adore Jaden McDaniels, but he has not leveled up as far as like what we thought.
Not offensively.
He's a good player, but he certainly hasn't leveled up. And when you're already, if you have Ant and you're going to pay Gobert and Cat, it's like you need your 3 to maybe be able to do a little bit more if you're going to pay him that much.
Yeah, I mean, they could quickly run into a similar problem that the Bucks had, depending on how Gobert ages. Mm-hmm. And what they do with Karl Anthony Towns and what they can bring back in a Karl Anthony Towns deal. Because my assumption is they'll be able to get a combination of picks and maybe a couple of younger role player-ish guys. But the money part of it is going to be very difficult. I mean, where does Karl Anthony Towns go?
So here's one.
I mean, the Knicks.
What about the Spurs? Because they don't have guys they have to pay that much, like you could, because
I don't know. LeBron is a free agent.
LeBron's a free agent, and if the Spurs draft Bronny, maybe. No, I think about the Spurs just because like you got Wemby on his rookie deal, so you have this like window for a few years where you could wildly
3-year title window.
Yeah, you can wildly overpay at the other spots, and like maybe you could endure having do Cat and Wemby make sense together. I feel like that might make a little bit of sense.
Wemby can play with anybody, and I think you're right there. And especially a guy like Cat, he's a good passer and he's a great shooter. So you have a guy who can get his own offense a little bit out there. So that gives you 2 bigs who can create, 2 bigs who can shoot, 1 big who can play defense. That works.
How about the Spurs this year end up their own first round pick, maybe it's like top 4, and they end up with the Raptors pick. They end up with the 7th pick or the 8th pick. What if you're the Spurs? What if you're the Timberwolves? And let's say hypothetically, the Timberwolves lose in the first round. They lose to the Lakers, and or whatever. Yeah, let's just say they lose in the first round. would you, if you're the Timberwolves, would you just trade Cat for like the 7th pick? And I don't know, Keldon Johnson. I don't know how if we can match the salary.
The Wolves, maybe.
Because your motivation is basically moving off this contract.
Right.
Would you do that if you're San Antonio? You're like, listen, I'm going to draft so-and-so. I'm going to draft Rob Dillingham. And here's the thing. I don't need Donovan Clingan. Give me Karl Anthony Towns to play with Wemby. We're trying to win some games.
It works, but I don't think anyone wants the salary slot. The player that they're going to have to pay with the 7th pick is just, I don't know. It seems like the consensus is you're not going to find a player that's as valuable as the 7th pick rookie scale salary demands. So I don't know if they would make that or not. I don't know if everyone
thinks that way. I mean, I know that's like something
a lot of people do.
Okay.
A lot of people do. So I'm not sure if that trade happens, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. Somebody's got to move. The money is going to demand it. I do not think it's Naz Reid because I think
not Naz Reid. They had Naz Reid beach towel tonight. Right?
It was a full-size beach towel, by the way.
Full-size beach towel. That's not cheaping out. That's incredible.
That's an investment in Naz Reid.
They gave out a full-size beach towel. Good job, Timberwolves. That's
pretty
incredible.
Amazing.
Which team right now, which team do you have the most confidence is going to make it out of the first round in the West? Let's say even ignoring seeding. Let's say like right now, I feel like the Mavericks are more likely to win a playoff series than the Thunder and the Timberwolves. And this is like a new feeling that has occurred to me in the last week. I am absolutely a prisoner of the moment. Like I am discounting what the Thunder did, from October through March, basically. And I'm probably overweighing my fear of Luka and Kyrie and what they can do in clutch situations and how well they've been playing in the past couple of weeks. But like, what's your confidence level if you had to wager on like which teams in the West? Like we all know we're all going to accept the Nuggets most likely. We feel the most comfortable with them. Everyone does. But like beyond that, who are you feeling the best about in the whole Western Conference?
I might have Dallas too. Like as far as confidence level behind the Nuggets, because I just think when you have two individual scorers like Luka and Kyrie, who can get buckets, and clearly they just make everybody better around them. I mean, Kyrie is having a ridiculous statistical shooting season. He has these games where you don't even realize he's there and he's putting up like 28 or 30 because he's playing next to Luka. I mean, I think this is kind of like the perfect setup for Kyrie in a lot of ways. And then they figured out the defense. So I just think the Mavericks, and plus they've shown, at least Luka has shown, that when the playoff lights come on, like he's ready. That's not a concern in any way. He doesn't ever get tight. And I think that experience going to the conference finals a few years ago probably has helped him quite a bit. But I just trust them a little bit more than just about anybody else. The Clippers look like they all hate each other now. Just don't like each other. Okay. But it's hard to tell because they wax and wane with that, right? Like when they're winning, they all are great. And if they lose a couple games, they don't have an identity. So I just don't trust those guys when in a tight series.
So the Clippers have just stopped trying on defense.
Yeah,
usually.
Completely.
Except for the second half against the Cavs on Sunday. This is wild, Dave. So if you missed it, the Cavaliers blew this massive lead to the Clippers. The Cavaliers had 80 points in the first half. They scored 38 in the second half. So they finished the game with 118 points. That's the third fewest points in a game ever for a team that had an 80-point first half. But like, they just fell apart. So all of a sudden, the Clippers are like, enough. Let's hold this team to 38 in the second half. Paul George, I think it's 2 Sundays in a row, hit the most ridiculous, most difficult mid-range daggers to get the game. This one, he drops Evan Mobley, rises up. Paul George had a huge game, but he hits the game winner, putting Mobley on the ground. The week before, he made a ridiculous high arching midi over Jonathan Isaac. So like Paul George has stepped up, but those instances notwithstanding, the team quit playing defense, and also Kawhi hasn't been playing, and like Harden's been like totally checked out.
The wonder Kawhi if knee is worrying me.
It's not like there's a history there of injury.
Same knee.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I'm with you. Where like all of a sudden I feel more confident in the Mavericks because of like having those clutch guys and like Kyrie and Luka who are playoff proven to us. We've never seen them like really back down, where it's like, then I look at like the Clippers, whatever they've gone through, and then going back to the Timberwolves, where it's like, I don't trust their crunch time offense. Like I know it's bad. It's all Anthony Edwards superhero stuff. And I've seen my guy, Mike Conley, who's also known as Captain Clutch around the Grizzlies fan base, but I've also seen Captain Clutch disappear in postseason games. He's had a bunch of stinkers in like game 7s and things. So like I worry about their offense. The Thunder is more unproven, where it's just like, I don't know.
Who knows? I will say this, man. I think similar to Dallas, you've got two guys there in Shea and Jalen Williams that can get you a bucket. And if you watch them, I think this year, their crunch time stuff has been kind of interesting because it's very ISO heavy. And you don't think about that from the Oklahoma City Thunder. When the water gets cut off for Shea and they start shading toward him, it's Jalen Williams' time to take over. And that in and of itself, again, that's the playoffs, right? Like you need the guy who can get the bucket when your bucket getter can't. And I think if you've got two of those guys, that gives you a leg up on the competition. Bigger problem for the Thunder is going to be, can the shooting hold out? Mm-hmm. Which I think it can. They've got really good shooters. Can the shooting hold out? Can they rebound? They are going to have to end possessions. They're going to not be able to get beat on the offensive glass consistently, and I just worry that they don't have the size to do it. Gang rebounding works. I mean, look at the New York Knicks and their guards and what they do. Oklahoma City doesn't do that. They are willing to concede the rebounding battle, but at a certain point, you have to worry about the math problem that can come from that. So, but I trust their guys to score. I trust Shea and Jalen. Well, so Jalen is underrated. I think he's not an all NBA guy yet.
I think we've praised Jalen every episode we've done in the last 4 weeks.
Well, you and I, yes.
Yeah. Here's one of my concerns that I don't think that many people talk about for the Thunder. The Thunder this year are the top 3-point shooting team by percentage, and I worry that maybe that doesn't carry over into the postseason. Where like Dort. Right. Who's making 40% of his threes, like I could easily see something where you're like, hey, in the first round, Lou Dort was whatever. He was 5 for 22 from 3. And it's like, that's like, maybe it's just a short sample size, but like these guys who you depend on in regular season, they're in rhythm, whatever. We're smashing the Hornets tonight. I went 6 for 6 from 3. Like, is the 3-point shooting of like your Isaiah Joes and your Aaron Wiggins and even like your good guys like Jalen Williams, who shoots whatever it is, incredible percent, 43%. Like, is that going to hold up in the postseason? Because I feel like we see it frequently where teams come into the postseason and it's like, hey, guess what? That 40% shooter, he's now a 32% shooter. And that 35% shooter, the lights are a little bit too bright. Now he's going 1 for 5 every game. And so like, that's another worry. And then when you fall back on if they're missing, then just the rebounding really start to hurt them. And that's where maybe I depend, or I trust more of like, well, I know the Clippers can crank out a basket because they have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I know the Mavericks can crank out a basket. I know the Suns can crank out a basket. One team we haven't mentioned, Dave, as we maybe can wrap up this section. I don't know what to make of the Pelicans, and I never do. And it looked like they were rounding into shape as like they kind of worked fewer, maybe Jonas minutes, and like Trey Mann was starting to play better. Trey Murphy was starting to play better. But then they had a little swoon. They lost a few. But then just one game on Sunday against the Suns, Zion looked as good as he's ever been. Like Zion all of a sudden is like the promised Messiah we thought he was going to be. So like, do you feel like you have a grasp on the Pelicans, and how do you rank them in this Western hierarchy we've been talking about?
I have no clue. I'll say this. They miss Brandon Ingram when he's not there. Mm-hmm. That's huge for them. So you have to take the last couple weeks, I think, and look at it through those glasses. Zion, if he's going to defend like this, that is a game changer for them. But I just think that the point Zion, the offensive initiation through Zion is going to be easy to scheme for in the playoffs. And unless your whole team is 100%, and I mean everybody, CJ, Brandon Ingram, I just don't know if they're going to have the firepower.
Yeah.
Herb Jones has been great this year. I think the offensive sort of growth of his game is going to be big for them. Trey Murphy's been pretty good since he's been back this season. Jonas is actually going to be an X factor for them in some of these series. You mentioned that he was playing less. I want to say, like, after the All-Star break, he's only been playing like 20 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game, something like that, because they know that their best lineups probably are not going to include him in the playoffs. So you got to get some reps with those guys. But do you trust them to string this together and do it for a series? I don't. It's a bunch of guys who have mostly been inconsistent, not just about being on the court, but also on the court. I mean, it's hit or miss. Like you said, Zion on a random Sunday, and he looks like the guy we've been waiting for years. But that's one game. I need to see more of it. I will say Zion's had a great season. He's been really good.
Career high in games played.
But still not as good as we expected him to be.
Yeah.
But at this point of his career. I find myself struggling to believe in the Pelicans. They just, and this is going to be my own bias, but I feel like every time I've tuned in to watch them play a big game, they have not shown me enough, like to say, oh, this is a team that can do some stuff. What are their signature moments of the year? You know,
it's just that Zion alley-oop catch. Like that one where he, I don't know. And they are, I guess, just the lack of cohesion just over years now, where you never know who's going to play for the Pelicans. I mean, the Brandon Ingram stuff, that's a career-long issue where, like, he's now out for several weeks. I don't know what to make of the Pelicans. Could they be a team? Now I'm thinking offseason. Like, what is a Brandon Ingram, Karl Anthony Towns swap? Is that maybe good for both? I don't know. Also, okay.
No, it's not.
This is going back to the college basketball game I watched some of on Monday night, and I'm no scout. And I have difficulty maybe even more looking at like bigs in college basketball and projecting them out, because I'm watching Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey, and I'm like, which one of those guys is better next year than like Jonas Valanciunas and Daniel Tice? And I'm like, I guess they eventually should be better than those guys, but also, like, I don't know. If you're a playoff team, is that who you're going to get? So, like, I mean, apparently these guys are going to get, Klingen's going to go top 10. Edey, a huge question mark. And I watch him and I'm just like, let's say he turns into Jonas, where like this guy can put up 18 and 10 in 22 minutes and he'll do it every night. And then it becomes like, well, where do you draft that? You know, like where do you draft that type of player? I have no idea. Feel free to weigh in if you have any.
In this draft, probably too high.
Probably too high. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. You don't want to pay him with that.
I mean, look,
salary slot of the 10th guy. Yeah.
When you look around the league, who are the guys you get super excited about? They're guys that can do more stuff than those dudes. Like Victor Wembanyama, I understand that he is a once in human existence human being to show up. But we're looking for something a little bit closer to that. Can you dribble? Can you shoot? Can you pass?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Not just, are you tall?
Well, let's take a quick break, Dave, and then let's come back with this interesting, massive shooting performance from Tyrese Maxey, continuing a league-wide trend. Got more on that right after this quick break. All right, Dave, you know I love stats. Here is another important moment for this NBA season. We had Tyrese Maxey going for a 50-point game for the 76ers. In this overtime win, Maxey got up 41 field goal attempts. So, Dave, he joins Jalen Brunson and DeJounte Murray as guys in just the past week and a half to have games with 40 or more field goal attempts. And he also joins Joel Embiid this season as players who have attempted 40 or more field goal attempts in a game. Dave, with 4 players this year having games with 40 or more field goal attempts, that is the most players in any NBA season since 1968 to have 40 or more field goal attempts. So It's an I don't know if it means anything. A lot of these are just random. A lot of guys are out with injury. We're going to overtime. Somebody's got to shoot.
Playing the Spurs.
Yeah. Losing to the Spurs.
Go ahead and get your 50.
Okay.
Wemby put up ridiculous numbers in that game.
Yeah, he did. Wemby also took 29 shots
more
in the game
impressive? Recently. Yeah. What was more impressive? Wemby's game?
Yeah.
The
Wemby
almost quadruple double.
Yeah. Can you, I'm sure you can bet on this. Like, I want to know what the odds are that Wemby has a quadruple double in a game next year. I assume.
How about 4 of them next year?
You think 4? Oh, 4 they get good odds.
Listen, he's flirted with 2 in the last week. This guy, he had 19 blocks over the weekend.
It's amazing. In NBA history, Dave, speaking of guys with 40 or more field goal attempts in a game, in NBA history, there are 4 players who have done that 10 or more times. Counting them down 4-1, Kobe Bryant has 10. Rick Barry has 11. Elgin Baylor has 12. And Wilt Chamberlain has 104. So there's your stats. And Joel Embiid, DeJounte Murray, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, they all have one.
We have to dump stats, man. I'm sorry. We've got to get rid of some of these stats. Anything like pre-79, I think. Like before Bird and Magic got into the league.
You're a 3-point era only guy. I respect that. It's fine. Speaking of stats, Dave, you know how you and I talk a lot about ways to fix the NBA, just like how to get rid of tanking and losing on purpose. Here's another one that I think, we had the 65 game rule that's been a little bit controversial. You have Tyrese Halliburton playing through injury. People want to vote for Joel Embiid for All NBA, even though he's not eligible. The award votes this year, they're going to occur after the season because Ernst & Young has to validate which players actually played the 65 games. By the way, Jaren Jackson Jr., this is shocking, Dave. He's played 66 games this year. One of them, he only clocked 13 minutes. Well, guess what? Guess who hasn't played a game since he clocked that final 66th game? It's Jaren. He's a beat up now. But small change that I don't know if would affect anything, but I think it might as far as motivate players to play. What if the scoring champ and the assist champ and the blocks champ and the rebounding champ?
Are you doing my bit?
Is it your bit?
Total points.
Yeah, it's just the totals. We've talked about this before, but like, I feel like now even more so, it's like the scoring champ should be the player who scores the most points. How is that controversial?
It never made sense to me. The whole point of the game is to score points. Period. Points. It's not to score 20 points a game.
Yeah.
The whole thing is how many points did you score?
It's
scoring more points for your team. Thank you. It is not home runs per game. I don't even know
how rushing yards per game. You win the rushing title in the NFL.
That's it. Yeah. It's points. Thank you. And I see that Basketball Reference has started tweeting total points.
I mean,
welcome to the revolution.
Always do it. And I know like winning a scoring title isn't really that big, but I do feel like
I disagree.
Something. Okay.
I actually think winning a scoring title is big if you think in the way that we talk about sports, right? Like, I mean, whether I feel this way or not, if we're going to talk about guys and where they rank in history, where they rank in the league, I think that scoring titles matter. And so like, if you've got 7 or 8 of them, that said something. Oh, you were the top scorer in the league 7 or 8 years. Now, when guys used to play 80, 82 games, the average was fine. But we live in a different era now. Mm-hmm. And so you had guys winning a scoring title playing 52 or 58 games or whatever the qualifying number used to be.
Right.
And it was garbage then. And I do not understand. You could have a cool scoring race with total points, actually. You can't do that with points per game.
Well, you still can because you have that end of season madness where a guy goes for 70
it all year.
Yeah.
If you only have the conversations, like when you have the big picture conversations and you do it in total points, I do think it's better. But and you're right. Every stat should be like that. The leader should be the guy who scored the most points, not the most per game.
And adding to that, you would have maybe situations end of the season March and April where it's like so-and-so, Jaren Jackson Jr. is averaging 3.7 blocks per game. If he shuts it down, he's played enough games to qualify. He can now shut it down and win and have the most blocks. But if it was a total, then you might have situations. I mean, this year Wemby's so far ahead, it doesn't matter. But like there would be other years possibly where it's like, hey, he's neck and neck with so-and-so. Like you have to play these games out to try to get more blocks. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't matter at all.
I think it does matter. And especially if it was something that awards voters looked at and they took that into consideration when they were giving out awards. But yeah, the total points, I think it's a much cooler way to do it. By the way, Wemby, I was looking at this yesterday. Wemby is he's got 245 blocks and 87 steals.
Yeah.
So is it conceivable that he's going to have the first 300 block, 100 steal season ever?
Has that never happened? So now
I don't think so.
I feel like Olajuwon would get close.
I don't think that's ever happened. This guy, I think, is going to completely change the way we. He might be Wayne Gretzky for defense by the time it's all said and done. Like the block numbers, he's going to do the LeBron scoring title, but with blocks.
Hakeem Olajuwon had. Oh my God, he had. All right, he did this so many years in a row, Dave.
He did really. 300 and 100. Okay,
he had 376 blocks and 174 steals in 1990.
Olajuwon underrated.
He had 342 blocks and 150 steals in 1993. It is funny where. This has happened on social media recently where people are like posting Joel Embiid clips and they're like, no one's ever done it before. And then all the old heads are throwing back the Olajuwon clips where it's like, do you realize what Olajuwon would do in today's game? Where like you can't touch anybody.
So Olajuwon had 3 seasons. Yeah. Wow.
Incredible, dude. Let's answer, Dave. Let's actually answer a listener submitted question. This is a good one. This is the croissant questioner. Damon Agnos asks, if you were to make a reality show where aspiring refs compete to make the NBA, what would it look like? This is a great question, Damon. This is an incredible idea. I've got some thoughts, Dave, but what are your thoughts? What do you think this would look like? A reality show where referees are competing to make the NBA, presumably as referees, not as players.
I don't really watch reality TV, so I'm just going to kind of guess that this could do a competition.
You've never seen an Iron Chef. It's incredible.
No, I haven't seen Iron Chef. I've seen the Great British Baking Show.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
British Bake Off. I mean, if we're taking that, I'd say, they bake some cakes, meringue. No, I think, it's physical challenge, right?
A lot of physical challenges. Also,
but coupled with decision making. Okay. So it's like, run 100-meter sprint, do the SATs, stuff like that. Right. So I want to see like how accurate is your eye when you're tired. So it's going to be like, you're going to do the decathlon and maybe the academic decathlon back to back. So maybe with events in between, right? So you do the steeplechase, and then you've got to go, I don't know, call a 3-on-3 basketball game by yourself. I don't know. The way they do it now, you go to school and then you go ref high school basketball games. That seems like a poor way to teach people to ref in the NBA.
Well, I think it's a lot more than that.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, there's a lot more steps than that.
Well, I would say one thing that I would want from this show is like you said, like, testing your mental acuity when exhausted. That's a good one. I love it. But absolutely, this reality show should have numerous physical challenges. Whether it's a decathlon, a triathlon, or just running around, whatever. But then
hostage to be able to negotiations,
but then being able to do that, and then you would have to, get questions right. And I'll tell you, I think one thing that I would want this series to do, and this is me as like referee defender, I would make it a goal of this series to point out to the viewer how horrible they would be at refereeing. So there would be things where like, it would be a mental challenge of like, answer these questions about rules, but like you as a viewer would see all the questions and realize you didn't know the right answer to any of them. So it would, cause like, I remember like taking high school referee tests where they had the most preposterous situations you couldn't even imagine, where you're like, I've watched basketball my whole life. I will do good at this test. And then it was just stuff where you're like, I have no idea. And so like, I would want a reality show to show even famous NBA plays. Cause like there was like there was a play years ago in the postseason. I can't remember who it was. Like the inbounds passer reaches the ball across, and I believe it was against Manu Ginobili, and shoves Manu Ginobili with the ball while he's doing the inbounds pass. And everyone watching this game was like, hey, they pointed at their TV and screamed, that's not right. But then like, you have to know what's the rule. What rule did this person break? And so like, I feel like there'd be you need to have so many scenarios to be like, what is the correct rule here? What do we do in this situation? So I'd want that to happen. I also would want,
it's out of bounds, by the way.
Yeah. Well, so you're not allowed, like the idea of like, that should be a foul on the inbounds passer. And then you ask the question, can an inbounds passer commit a foul? And people are like, oh, I don't know. Exactly. And you have to know that in the playoffs. Like you have to know that. You have to know the rule while it occurs for the first time ever in NBA history. But I also would want a lot of like this first person camera view, like where like it's eye level. You're not looking at it from 50 feet up on the TV camera where you can see stuff. You got to be 6 feet off the ground. And I wish
you've reffed games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's impossible.
It's hard. It's so hard.
You get cussed at by everybody.
That would be another thing. You would also need to have them while they're training. You need to have hecklers.
Yeah.
You gotta have psychological warfare. But I would just love a thing where there's like a video.
We're gonna send them to buds, right? They're gonna go do SEAL training and referee in the middle of it.
But like I want things where the viewers are also experiencing some of it, where like you watch from, if it is like, you can put cameras on NBA refs. Right now, I know the big three, the league, the Ice Cube League has like the refs with the camera where you can see it. Like you need to watch plays from that perspective and then call it out. And you got to do it within a 10th of a second or whatever. You have to answer this, like you got to get it right. So like, I feel like there's a lot of fun things where it would be hard for the referees, the contestants, but like, I feel like the viewers should be able to experience a lot of it. It should be interactive, basically. I would love for a thing to be like, how did you do? And like fill out, like you have to say, what was the call? Is that a block or a charge or whatever it's going to be? And then to be like, hey, now look at the other angle. You were totally wrong. I just want maybe to humble everyone a little bit, to be like, hey, it's impossible. But I think it's a great, I would watch this, and why the league isn't putting this together. Do you think other people would watch it? You're thinking no.
Look, man, I don't know. It seems like people watch everything. I don't know. People have opinions on everything, whether they watch it or not. I don't know.
We'd have to get like, Dwight Howard would do it. Richard Jefferson would be one of the contestants.
Anybody who wants attention would be pumped to be on them.
Yeah. Disgraced former politicians would be there. It'd be great.
It'd be like Dancing with the Stars. Who we're going to roll out some right wing washed up person.
We just want to get a few actual good NBA prospects, a few ex NBA players, and then maybe a couple of celebrities who think they can do it. I feel like this would be well
as
watched.
NBA TV summer programming very easily.
Yeah, make it part of All-Star Weekend.
And then they go refs. No. Make them part of Summer League. They go ref Summer League.
What could go wrong? Again, they put Richard Jefferson out there, and he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah, it was awful.
Made a mockery of the sport and of the officiating profession.
Yeah, I was by the way, playing the rule book, like when I coached high school, I always played with the rule book because I would assume that I could take advantage of the refs, right?
Yeah.
My press break, we're making an out of bounds pass. I'm trying to draw technical fouls and to mess up the press. I once had an opposing team hit the ball on an out of bounds, baseline to baseline pass.
Yeah.
And we did not get technical free throws for it.
Right. So that's the problem when you play referee ball. I call it referee roulette. That's what Marcus Smart does. You have to be sure that the refs know the rules.
Right.
So like I would do that a lot in church league basketball, where I would try to entice the other player to hit the ball when I was throwing the ball in bounds to like reach over the line and hit the ball. It should be a technical foul. Unfortunately, the refs didn't know the rules, so it didn't really work. Speaking of referees, more referee talk. It's what all the numbers say people want. I have this thought that maybe the referees have just quit doing travels in the last 2 minute report. I'm looking for more examples. So listeners, if you notice any travels that just get omitted from last 2 minute reports, I'm interested because I feel like it's been a pattern. There have been at least 2 instances now where I thought there was a travel in a close game, and I went to look at the last 2 minute report, and not only was the travel, like, it wasn't listed as a correct no call, it wasn't even mentioned that there might have been the possibility of a travel. Like very recently, last week, the Warriors beat the Mavericks. It looked like Klay Thompson blatantly traveled, catching an inbounds pass up 2. There were some other angles that were pointed out to me. They're like, oh, he bobbled the ball. So I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe he fumbled the pass. That's why he was allowed to take 3 steps before beginning his dribble. But like, that should be in the last 2 minute report as a correct no call. Klay Thompson fumbles the pass, thus it is not traveling, where he did not release the ball for the dribble after just 1 step. There's nothing there. So I feel like maybe they've gotten the go-ahead to just say, hey, listen, not our problem. Look the other way. We're not enforcing travels. I don't know. Maybe it's just anecdotal. Listen,
travels, double dribble, moving screens. I just call them. Yeah. I don't know, man. This is I'm finishing up my 8th year podcasting. This is the one thing I've asked for the whole time. Give the defense a chance. And they're not going to self-report missing travels on purpose. Like, they're going to try to skip over them, man.
I know. Yeah. It's maybe just a little conspiracy I have that they're officially looking the other way. Cause like the biggest change in the last 2 minute reports this year has been everything is incidental contact now, where it's like, oh, apparently that's marginal contact. No correct. No call. And I'm all for it, but I think they're overlooking travels. Anyways, thanks for the question, Damon. If you want your question answered on air, you have to become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Yes, Dave, what is it?
Did you watch Tough Enough?
No.
The WWE reality show where they were like looking for new wrestlers?
Nope, I did not.
That one had a lot of like psychological warfare in it. I think if you could get something like that,
so we should get the producers of Tough Enough to make the referee one. That's a good idea.
Well, I mean, honestly, maybe you get the WWE to do the NBA referee reality show.
Yeah,
because theoretically, we want these guys to be producers on the court. Like, I want them to, please call the rules or the game by the rules. But also make sure this is good TV.
Oh.
And this is where the WWE and wrestling referees come in, right?
You want Judge Dredd referees. Just you
not. I really just want you. Yeah, just give me a good TV show.
Be the architect of the thing.
Yeah. Well, not really. Okay. It's more like be the captain of the ship. When you
don't call the illegal screen on UConn against Iowa in the women's Final Four.
Right.
Even though it was clearly a illegal screen.
It was a moving screen, but you don't call that when you let the shot go up.
Interesting. I would see, this is where we disagree, but it's fine to have reason people disagree. No, join the Patreon, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Congrats, by the way, to Patreon supporter Bobby Payton for winning the Fast Break Breakfast Patreon men's bracket. Over 50 people entered. He was the winner of that, so a shirt is going to be headed his way. Also, congrats to Jay Garrick. I don't know who you are. You won the women's bracket, so reach out to me so I can get that t-shirt to you. Also, if you want to join the Patreon, thing to look forward to, of course, the NBA season ends on Sunday, and that means we have the Stone Cold Locks Playoff Challenge, one of my favorite yearly events. So all of that is available to the Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. All right, Dave, it's now time for the awards segment of the program. The International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award, given each week to the worst performance in a box score. A little bit, for me, Dave, a little bit of a sad week with the iShop because there was a all-time great/terrible performance this week that went totally unnoticed by me, and I'm a little crestfallen. No one reached out and told me about it. No one was like, hey, buddy, did you see this? So I'm a little sad about that. But before we get there, we have to get our honorable mentions. This week's honorable mentions: Malik Beasley, 2 for 13. Jaden Ivey, 3 for 15. Jabari Walker, 4 for 17. James Harden, 6 for 23. Luka, 8 for 25. And Wemby, 9 for 29. Now, here are our 3 nominees as they occurred chronologically over the past week. First of all, Malachi Flynn. Come on down, Malachi Flynn. You scored 50 points in a game despite having a career average of 5. After your 50-point game, however, you lost to the Grizzlies and went 0 for 12 from the field. Had 3 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, and 0 personal fouls. Perhaps try. So Malachi Flynn, incredible. Follows up the 50-point game with an 0 for 12. But then this next game, Sam Hauser, in a 1-point win against the Kings, Sam Hauser was 1 for 18 from the field. 3.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers, 1 personal foul. This, Dave, is the game no one told me about. I didn't know it happened. I uncovered it looking this up, and I was like, what? 1 for 18?
You're saying 40-point or 40-shot games are a sign that people don't care right now. Sam Hauser 18-shot game.
Yeah.
No matter how many he made. But the fact that he got up 18
is incredible.
Shots. Oh man. Yeah, we're officially in. Yeah. They don't care. Look, Boston, tip your cap. Shout out to them. And they don't have to care right now.
They need to care on Tuesday night. They need to beat the Bucks to keep their losing streak going. That's how I feel. But anyways, anticlimactically, the final nominee is Dennis Schroeder. And a loss to the Celtics, who do not care, in a game where the Nets only scored 77 points. Schroeder was 1 for 12, 4 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and a block. So we have Malachi Flynn, 0 for 12, 3 points. We have Sam Hauser, 1 for 18, 3 points, and Dennis Schroeder, 1 for 12, 4 points. What do you feel like, Dave? I know I've kind of maybe oversold.
It's got to be Hauser.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean,
normally,
1 for 18. Although the Malachi Flynn, to be at the mountaintop, and then to fall to the gutter, that's. I think I'm going Hauser.
I didn't look it up because I don't know how to that easily. There's no way that's happened before, where a player scores 50 points one game and then misses all of his shots the next game. No chance. He also, after this game, went 1 for 7 in the next game. He's 1 for 19 from the field after scoring 50 points. But
wasn't a fluke, though.
Malachi Flynn going 0 for 12, which matches the biggest 0 for in a game this year, gets blown out of the water. He doesn't even get his International Stackhouse and Pancakes Award because of Sam Hauser. Congratulations. Sam Hauser, 1 for 18, Dave. Nobody else this season has gone worse than 1 for 13. If we're talking about the worst field goal percentage in a game where you make at least 1 shot or where you take at least 13 shots, no one's gone worse than 1 for 13. The last time we got a 1 for 18 in the NBA was 2019. Jason Tatum did it in a win against the Mavs. In the 3-point era, Dave, which you said is the only era that the statistics should maybe matter. I mean, they didn't really say that, but I know what you meant.
Not wrong.
It's only happened 4 times. Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum, Robert Covington, and Chris Bosh.
Wow.
Dave, the worst field goal percentage in any game in NBA history where you attempt at least 18 field goal attempts, this takes us back to 1947. And no, it's not Jumpin' Joe Folks, although everyone was thinking it was Jumpin' Joe Folks. Joe did have a 1 for 18 and a 1 for 19 game.
Wow.
In his career. But the lowest field goal percentage ever for a guy with at least 18 field goal attempts, it's Angelo Musi of the Philadelphia Warriors. In an overtime win, he put up 23 field goal attempts and made 1. He made 1 shot, 4%.
The worst guy to play pickup with.
Musi, in his 3-year career, had a career field goal percentage of 29%. The 40s, different beast.
Must have been a defender.
Yeah, must have been. I actually think he was probably an offensive specialist with those shooting numbers. Anyways, Dave, what things are you looking forward to this final 6 days of the NBA regular season. Of course, we have multiple teams in the East all stuck at 46 wins. We have West teams desperately trying to avoid the play-in. But what are you most focused on as the league wraps up the regular season?
I mean, I think just like everybody else, the playoffs started already. And if you're watching some of these teams that are jockeying for position, I think that this week is going to be kind of an epic week because the teams playing to get out of the play-in are really playing for some time off too. And I think that that's an underrated part of avoiding the play-in for the top 6 teams. So a little bit extra effort this week could get, the Dallas Mavericks could use a little bit of downtime. We just mentioned the Pelicans and how they've been struggling. I mean, would Kevin Durant at 36 years old, would he like a week off? I think so, right? I'm just locked in on these playoff races, seeing how all this stuff is going to shake out. And I don't know, then just gearing up for the play-in. I mean, as we just got to see for both the men's and women's tournament, the best version of basketball for fans is single elimination. So for me, play-in week is one of the better weeks on the NBA calendar. So I'm hoping we get some good matchups. I'm actually, as far as the playoff positioning goes, I'm really rooting for the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks to see each other in the first round. There's stuff like that. So that's what I'm watching right now. Am I going to get all the matchups I want?
Well, Milwaukee is so interesting to me because they were so comfortably at the top or second. They were second, but clearly second for so long. And now with the incredible 4-game losing streak against bad teams, they now have to face their final 4 games: Boston, Orlando, Oklahoma City, Orlando. Outside of the Celtics, those are teams that have a lot to play for. And you can see the Bucks they can slide. They can slide to not having home court advantage in the first round. I mean,
how about the Celtics? How screwed are they? You just kicked everybody's ass all year.
Yeah.
You get this huge lead, and in the first round, you might get Miami, or Philadelphia with Joel Embiid.
So Philadelphia has a chance to to push out of the play-in totally. They've won 5 straight, and credit to the Pacers for picking up and actually winning a couple of games when they had to. Pacers Cavs play, I think, on Friday, but there's a lot of, this final 6 days, it's all about finding the matchups where both teams have motivation. Unfortunately, 8 of the teams are basically spoiling it for everybody by not trying at all. But there's going to be some really good March Madness, as you said.
Bucks Celtics tonight. It's more of I'm gearing up to watch a train wreck than it is a basketball game because, like you said, the Celtics don't care. But if they decide to care, which they play hard anyway.
Yeah.
That could be very interesting.
When there's no pressure on you, and all of a sudden Peyton Pritchard's dropping 25, and you still have to deal with my guy Xavier Tillman. He's not going to stop trying on the bench, so it could be a lot of fun.
And Orlando's got Houston, right? So if you just look at that race, Orlando could theoretically be tied for the 2 seed tomorrow.
Yep. You got the Bucks have 47 wins, and then Magic, Knicks, Cavs all at 46, Pacers 45, 76ers 44. So basically you better get to 49 wins or 48 wins. Cause the Sixers could easily win out. If the Sixers finished with 48 wins, what other teams are going to match them to keep them from either staying in the play-in or even keep them from, creeping up? It's mathematically possible, although very unlikely, because I believe the Knicks have the tiebreaker that the Sixers could get home court. Maybe they're capped at rising to 5, but it's going to be exciting to watch. Here's what I'm watching, Dave. We are right now as a league, we are 9 blowouts away from setting the all-time record for the most games in a season decided by 20 or more points. So we have 6 days left. Can we get 9 more games decided by 20 or more points? I say yes. I say we're going to do it. We're going to have the most blowouts in a season ever. That is what I'm looking forward to.
That one feels like it's going to happen.
I'm locked in. I'm ready.
You're going to get 3 or 4 tonight.
Blazers, Wizards,
Sixers,
Grizzlies,
Pistons.
Pistons.
Pelicans, Blazers.
Lot of these games could go that way. So
Nuggets,
good job.
Jazz.
There's certainly nothing wrong with your league, NBA. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's all going great. Anyways, Dave, thanks for joining. As always, you guys out there, if you want to support the program, do that at patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. Thanks for listening. You guys are the best. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fastbreak break, man. You understand?